All right, my friends, thank you for tuning in. In this video, I want to discuss Matthew McConaughey's book called Greenlights. Now, if this looks familiar to you, it's because, well, it's everywhere, and it has been since it came out in 2020. It's published by Crown Publishing. And he's done just an extensive number of interviews, many of which I've seen on YouTube. And it's gotten just a lot of press. In fact, so many people have read this book. This is what surprises me. A lot of books I read, I can talk about, but many people tell me I haven't read that. But with this one, I've just seen a score of people tell me, yes, I've read that, I like it a lot, and I recommend it, which is what I'm going to do here because this is a very fun book to go through and thought-provoking at the same time. While Matthew McConaughey is a very famous movie actor, he's also quite a thinker. I'd call him a folk philosopher. Now, if you're having a hard time remembering who he is, maybe you're not a big movie watcher, let me refresh your memory. I think he made his big debut in the movie A Time to Kill, went on to star in many other motion pictures like Lincoln Lawyer. One of my favorite movies he was in was called U-571. And he was also in a number of romantic comedies, did very well in that genre. And then he also starred in Magic Mike along with Channing Tatum, which is a movie I've honestly never seen. Then some of the more recent ones, and just a few years going back, are ones like Interstellar, which people love to quote, and also The Gentleman. If you haven't seen that movie, that's a fun movie to watch. But Matthew McConaughey is a great actor, and he makes you want to sit up and listen to him talk. First of all, he's got this accent, this Texan accent that kind of grabs your ear because you don't hear it a lot, it seems like, for some reason. But he has a certain way of speaking in a rhythm that makes you wonder what he's all about. You can kind of tell just by the way he talks that he is a thinker. And he's done a number of motivational speeches, I believe, that get a lot of views, like I say, on YouTube. Anyway, let me tell you about this book and how much I enjoyed it. It's about 289 readable pages. A lot of them are taken up with, like, I would say, like photocopies of his notes he's taken throughout the years. He's a big note taker, and so he tells you at the beginning of the book what this is all about. Now, if I have not mentioned it yet, let me do so here now. If I have already, please forgive me. But like I want to say here, this is not a book about the movie industry. He does talk about it. He does go into a little bit, but if you think he's just going to go into the behind the scenes accounts, that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Here's what he says about his book. Let me just read to you the kind of like the opening to it. He says, I've been in this life for 50 years at the time of his writing. Him and I are the same age, so this is another way I can relate to him. Now, I've been in this life for 50 years, trying to work out its riddle for 42, and keeping diaries of clues to that riddle for the last 35. Notes about successes and failures, joys and sorrows, things that made me marvel and things that made me laugh out loud. 35 years of realizing, remembering, recognizing, gathering, and jotting down what has moved me or turned me on along the way. How to be fair, how to have less stress, how to have fun, how to hurt people less, how to get hurt less, how to be a good man, how to get what I want, how to have meaning in life, how to be more me. I never wrote things down to remember. I always wrote things down so I could forget. The idea of revisiting my life and musings was a daunting one. I wasn't sure if I'd enjoy the company. Recently, I worked up the courage to sit down with those diaries and have a look at the 35 years of writing about who I've been over the last 50. And you know what? I've enjoyed myself more than I thought I would. I laughed, I cried, I realized I had remembered more than I expected and forgot less. What did I find? I found stories I witnessed and experienced, lessons I learned and forgot. Poems, prayers, prescriptions, answers to questions I had, reminders of questions I still have, affirmations for certain doubts, beliefs about what matters, theories on relativity, and a whole bunch of bumper stickers. I found consistent ways that I approached life that gave me more satisfaction at the time and still. I found a reliable theme. So I packed up those journals and took a one-way ticket to solitary confinement in the desert, where I began writing what you hold now. An album, a record, a story of my life so far. Things I witnessed, dreamed, chased, gave, and received. Truth bombs interrupted by space and time in ways I could not ignore. Contracts I have made with myself, many of which I live up to, most of which I still pursue. These are my sights and scenes, felts and figured outs, cools and shamefuls, graces, truths, and beauties of brutality. Initiations, invitations, calibrations, and graduations. Getting away with, getting caughts, and getting wets, trying to dance between the raindrops. Rites of passage. All between or on the other side of persistence and letting go, on the way to the science of satisfaction in this great experiment called life. Hopefully it's medicine that tastes good, a couple of aspirin instead of the infirmary. A spaceship to Mars without needing your pilot's license, going to church without having to be born again, and laughing through the tears. It's a love letter to life. Now that's how he sums up his book. And as you can tell by the way he writes, he's got a rhythm to him. And so, if you're familiar with him at all, he writes just like he talks. And so it's very easy as you're going through the book within a half an hour to have read, 30 to 50 pages, because it just goes by like that. And it's just filled copiously with his notes. And he talks a lot, about growing up with his parents, which, here's the thing. A lot of people are going to read this book and they're going to see his parents as having been abusive to each other, not to the children, but to each other. And what's interesting about him is that anybody could have walked away with a vastly different recounting of their childhood and have let it scar them, but he didn't. He let it make him a stronger person. He actually appreciated even the dark sides of the family life. And he loved his parents so much despite a lot of the misgivings. And that's something that you don't hear about these days. In fact, people are encouraged, I feel like, at least, to be resentful toward their parents for every fault that they can, every crack, every fissure they can possibly find. But Matthew McConaughey is not like that. He actually can find the things he appreciates about each one of his parents. And he doesn't pull punches. He lets you know what he didn't like. He makes no bones about it. He's just a very honest guy. He's not pretentious at all, which endears me to him a lot. And so I'm going to share just a couple of things from his book with you to kind of give you an idea of what you can expect. And I think you're really going to like this book a lot. Now I'm going to turn to page 13, where he explains what a green light is. Because if you remember the name of the book is Greenlights, if you're wondering at all what that means to him and what it's supposed to mean to you, here's his explanation for it. He said, green lights mean go, advance, carry on, continue. On the road, they are set up to give the flow of traffic the right of way. And when scheduled properly, more vehicles catch more green lights in succession. They say, proceed. In our lives, they are an affirmation of our way. They're approvals, support, praise, gifts, gas on our fires, attaboys and appetites. They're cash money, birth, springtime, health, success, joy, sustainability, innocence, and fresh starts. We love green lights. They don't interfere with our direction. They're easy. They're a shoeless summer. They say yes and give us what we want. Green lights can also be disguised as yellow and red lights. A caution, a detour, a thoughtful pause, an interruption, a disagreement, indigestion, sickness, and pain. A full stop, a jackknife, an intervention, failure, suffering, a slap in the face, death. We don't like yellow and red lights. They slow us down or stop our flow. They're hard. They're a shoeless winter. They say no, but sometimes give us what we need. Catching green lights is about skill, intent, context, consideration, endurance, anticipation, resilience, speed, and discipline. We can catch more green lights by simply identifying where the red lights are in our life and then change course to hit fewer of them. We can also earn green lights, engineer and design for them. We can create more and schedule them in our future, a path of least resistance through force of will, hard work, and the choices we make. We can be responsible for green lights. Catching green lights is also about timing, the world's timing and ours, when we are in the zone, on the frequency, and with the flow. We can catch green lights by sheer luck because we are in the right place at the right time. Catching more of them in our future can be about intuition, karma, and fortune. Sometimes catching green lights is about fate. Navigating the Autobahn of life in the best way possible is about getting relative with the inevitable at the right time. The inevitability of a situation is not relative. When we accept the outcome of a given situation as inevitable, then how we choose to deal with it is relative. We either persist and continue in our present pursuit of a desired result, pivot and take a new tack to get it, or concede altogether and tally one up for fate. We push on, call an audible, or wave the white flag and live to fight another day. The secret to our satisfaction lies in which one of these we choose to do when. This is the art of living. I believe everything we do in life is part of a plan. Sometimes the plan goes as intended and sometimes it doesn't. That's part of the plan. Realizing this is a green light in itself. The problems we face today eventually turn into blessings in the rearview mirror of life. In time, yesterday's red light leads us to a green light. All destruction eventually leads to construction. All death eventually leads to birth. All pain eventually leads to pleasure. In this life or the next, what goes down will come up. It's a matter of how we see the challenge in front of us and how we engage with it. Persist, pivot, or concede. It's up to us, our choice every time. This is a book about how to catch more yeses in a world of no's and how to recognize when a no might actually be a yes. This is a book about catching green lights and realizing that the yellows and reds eventually turn green. By design and on purpose, good luck. So there you have it. There's what he means by green lights. Let me tell you something, folks. If that right there doesn't compel you and tell you what an optimistic, motivational guy Matthew McConaughey is, I don't know what does. But one of the things I really like about him is his optimism. And another thing is he talks about his dreams. I'm talking about literal dreams. I'm not talking about pie in the sky. I'm talking about dreams he has at night. And he followed them. He actually took cues from them and asked what they were trying to tell him, which I don't do. And I can't say I'm necessarily even a believer in that, but he is, and it actually worked out for him. Now, some people don't have the time or the money or the resources to be able to do that, but he did. And it's really interesting to see what it did for him. It took him to the Amazon and also took him to Africa on these quests to find out what these dreams were trying to tell him and who he really was in this world. And I think that's worth finding out and making you think, because it certainly did me. It makes me wonder how many things I've missed out on because I didn't pay attention to them. Now, one of the other things that really stood out to me in this book, I just think it's a fun retelling. He talks about his mom here, and she's still alive, apparently. She's probably 90 years old now, but they've had an up and down relationship, and he did with his dad, too. His dad's an interesting guy. But here's what he says about his mother. Listen to this really carefully, because it really shaped the person who he was, I believe. This is what I'm gleaning from this. I really do believe it helped shape who Matthew turned out to be. He says, like a good Southern boy should, I'll start with my mom. She's a true baller, living proof that the value of denial depends on one's level of commitment to it. She's beat 2 types of cancer on nothing more than aspirin and denial. She's a woman that says, I'm gonna before she can, I would before she could, and I'll be there before she's invited. Fiercely loyal to convenience and controversy, she's always had an adversarial relationship with context and consideration because they ask permission. She might not be the smartest person in the room, but she ain't crying. I just love the way he writes. She's 88 now, and seldom do I go to bed after her or wake up before her. Her curfew when she was growing up was when she danced holes big enough in the feet of her pantyhose that they came up around her ankles. Nobody forgives themselves quicker than she does, and therefore she carries zero stress. I once asked her if she ever went to bed with any regrets. She quickly told me, "Every night, son, I just forget them by the time I wake up." She always told us, "Don't walk into a place like you want to buy it, walk in like you own it." That's something I can relate to. Obviously, her favorite word in the English language is yes. In 1977, Mom entered me in the Little Mr. Texas contest in Bandera, Texas. I won a big trophy. My mom framed this picture and put it on the kitchen wall. Here's a picture of him right there. 1977. Little Mr. Texas. Every morning when I came to breakfast, she'd gesture to it and say, "Look at you, winner, Little Mr. Texas 1977. Last year, I came across the picture in her scrapbook when something caught my eye. Curious, I zoomed in on the nameplate on the trophy. It said, runner-up. I called the queen of relativity, my mom, and said, "Mom, all my life you told me that I was Little Mr. Texas, but I was really runner-up." And she said, "No, the kid who won it, his family had a lot more money than us, and they bought him a fancy three-piece suit for the contest. We call that cheating. No, you're Little Mr. Texas." And it just, it's one of the things that really stayed with me throughout the book, and it really made me realize that it is kind of what shaped him. Not only that, but many other things. I do believe he's probably a great father and a great husband, and he walked away from Hollywood for a while. He does talk about that, and just to find out really what he really wanted and where he was going to go. And so you'll find all that in this book. I do recommend it. It's a fun read. It's an easy read. And what I also love about it is that he's not trying to be a great writer, but it turns out to be great writing. And he doesn't wear out his welcome. He ends the book at a time when I think he should. He didn't go on too long, and neither did he cut it too short. So pick this up. Check it out for yourself. Enjoy it. Tell me what you thought. Leave your comments down in the section below. I'll put a link for this book down there so you can order it. I do believe he made an audiobook where he narrates it himself, and that would be interesting to listen to. I think in addition to reading this book, I'd actually like to go back and listen to him read it himself. So there you have it, folks. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you take my recommendation, and let me know what you thought either way. I'll catch you on the next one. Have a great day. Bye-bye.